But I've really been vindicated, and the communities are now saying make exercise 50% of your medication for Parkinson's. Well, that goes to an awful lot of different things. And that's why I really wanted to find out about ataxia, to see whether this was going to be something appropriate. And it seems to be extremely appropriate. A lot of the symptoms that ataxia has were the same symptoms as Parkinson's, kind of shuffling. Balance issues are terrible. Sometimes people have problems swallowing and speaking and sleeping and communicating, and cognition issues. So I can't help terribly with cognition issues, except to say that they have proven that exercise makes new synapses in your brain. And if you're making new synapses in your brain, then your cognition can be somewhat improved. But I got involved with the Tai Chi. Principally, I'm a master fitness trainer, worked at the YMCA, and I started getting involved with the Tai Chi. Kind of one thing led to another, led to another. This particular 8 form that has been introduced from Oregon Research Institute with Dr. Fuzhong Li was made so that it was specific to elderly persons and not falling, and Parkinson's persons and not falling. So Oregon State started having a lot of people go on board. They paid YMCAs to have us teach this particular thing, and their idea was to keep people out of the hospital and to reduce costs. But as I started to teach, I was attracting a few people with Parkinson's, and it's a success. I just cannot express to you how this works, but I can tell you why I think it works if you're interested. You've muted yourself. Okay, I can't hear you, but I'm a good talker. Oh, there you go.
Yeah.
Yeah, we are
interested. Definitely go ahead and tell us why you think that works.
Okay, with all Tai Chi, the one thing that I think really helps is that you lift your toes. You set your heel down and you lift your toes up, and you rotate your foot left and right by lifting your toes. Well, most people have muscle imbalance, not body imbalance, but muscle imbalance, where the backs of the calves are very, very strong, and the fronts of the calves and the tops of the feet are very, very weak. And a lot of times people will even make that worse by wearing very, very heavy shoes. And they hope that that is going to help them. But instead, what happens is that they start plodding, and they let the shoe do the work, and they don't develop the top of the foot. Well, if you think about going up on a curb, if your toes are dropping, you're going to stumble on that curb. And if you get to the point that you're letting the shoes do the work all the time, pretty soon you're going to stumble when you're even wearing shoes and you're walking merely on a carpet. So it's very important to have, like I said, it's muscle balance, the strong front muscles and the strong muscles in the back of the calf. And pretty soon the brain starts to say, oh, so that's how I'm supposed to actually move. When you're a kid, you have the body-brain connection. And if you have the body-brain connection, you don't think about lifting your toes. Little kids, they'll run around and, until maybe when they're little, they stumble. But pretty soon you get to a point you lift your feet. Well, all of a sudden you get something like an injury, you get ataxia, all of a sudden your Parkinson's is starting to come on, but you didn't realize that it was. And the norm for your body and brain to talk to each other is becoming slowly but surely, I shuffle my feet. So now you've had years of practice not lifting your feet. And so something that is specific, such as Tai Chi or Qigong, and even some of the boxing things, I'm sure help by learning how to turn on toes, lifting toes, and the like, is going to make the body be able to immediately lift those toes as soon as you take a step. Whether you step sideways, whether you step forward, you're going to be stepping, and the body will instantly respond the way that you want it to. Another couple of things that happen is Again, it's called proprioception, and there won't be a test on that, and you don't have to spell it. Proprioception is, I know that my hand is behind me and I'm waving it around even though I'm not looking at it. I'm aware of where that hand is in relation to my body and in relation to space. In Tai Chi, you learn how to step to the side, to step diagonally forward, to step backward, where to put your hands. So your proprioception begins to come back to you, where you've sort of slowly but surely closed down on that, the more that you had to work hard in order merely to move forward or to try and keep your balance. You're thinking about that instead of this natural movement. There's another couple of things that happen, and that is knowing where you're stepping your feet and being cognizant at that time. Not cognition problems, but being cognizant of, I am putting my left foot on the floor. It has its heel down. Now I shall put my toe down. I'm going to move my right hand and move over here. You're constantly telling yourself, or your instructor should be telling you until it becomes your norm, where to step, how to shift your balance to the foot you just stepped with by shifting your hips over and not lifting that last foot until your body balance is over the foot you just stepped with. Too often we step, we don't think about it, we step, the body starts to fall because the balance isn't over the leg that you just put down, and then you trip.
I think one thing I caught in one of the videos on your YouTube channel was very similar to what we learned in when I was doing karate. That one concept my sensei taught me is, if you want to, say, be able to kick higher or balance on one leg better, you have to bend the base leg that you're on.
Yes, yes. And that gives you more control as well. If you think about even an arm, if you have your arm out here and you're doing this and you're lifting a bucket of sand or something, if I do this, I can lift a lot more weight with that bent arm, and I have more control than I do if I'm out here. So the legs are kind of doing the same thing. If you learn how to soften up the legs and you learn to expect the step to happen and learn how to move your hips over in order to do that, pretty soon again you have that body brain thing. And I one of the biggest things that made me so excited, I had a gentleman take my classes through the YMCA, and he did it seated. And it was principally the 8 form, and then we moved on to other things. The man had been falling weekly. He did these exercises, and they recommend 3 hours a week in 3 one-hour sessions. But just so that you're working on whether it's Tai Chi or your balance issues, be working on something specific. This gentleman didn't fall once during the 2 years he took my class. Now, to me, that's huge.
And that was all Tai Chi, right?
That one was principally Tai Chi, moving for better balance, the 8 form. And the 8 form is, most Tai Chi sequences are not symmetrical, but the 8 form is symmetrical, totally. So I'm supposed to know sign language, but I don't.
I think Mary Beth is talking to Troy over there. But have you only worked with people with Parkinson's?
No, I've worked with a few people with Parkinson's, and some of the people in our Parkinson's support group have gone to other instructors just because of the location in our community. And one of the gentlemen went to his neurologist after having taken Tai Chi for, I think it was about 4 or 5 weeks. And his neurologist said, "What did you do differently?" Because he didn't cue him and say, "Well, I've been taking this." He just saw that this man, his tests were coming back so much better. And then he told him he was doing it. But I see improvement in so many people. I had one young woman, she's my age, So in their 60s, and she walks her huge dog and had to go down a slope, and the slope was icy, and the dog started to pull her, and she said her brain body immediately bent her knees, set her feet apart. The dog is taking her down, and she's sliding with her feet apart down, going, keep my knees bent, keep my knees bent, keep my knees bent, keep my knees bent. And she didn't fall. I had another gentleman who actually had uh, a camper that you put on the back of pickup trucks fall on him, and he's holding it up like this with his hands. The support underneath it had given way, and nobody came to his rescue. So he's yelling and he's going, what should I do? And he thought, okay, Tai Chi. And he walked his hands this way, but there's a particular move that you do called waving hands with clouds, and you take steps sideways and you plant yourself and you get that weight so that you have total control. And he walked this way to the end of the camper, and then it fell. So he basically saved his life, or at least saved something, by having done that. It's, to me, I think that an awful lot, like on my YouTube videos, you'll see some awareness in moving. And I have, I think, 3 awareness in moving videos. And it's all talking about being aware of where you're putting your feet for the little 15-minute video. So you practice it a few times, and pretty soon it becomes your norm.
Right. Okay. So when did you start putting together your program for people with Parkinson's?
I started actually in the year 2001 when my father and I started developing our own programs. And we worked on his bradykinesia, the slow movement, slow walking. We worked on his voice and so forth. And then when my father passed away about 12 years ago, a young woman who's local that has Parkinson's said, you need to go online and start putting this out there for people. And I reluctantly was drugged into YouTube, kicking and screaming, and Facebook, because I was not a computer person. But I've been doing this ever since. I've been able to speak at a few conferences. I was able to attend the World Parkinson Congress in Portland, Oregon a few years ago, and meet all kinds of people. I started adding more certificates to what I do. And like I said, I went in and did a master trainer program so that I could really help people who have movement issues and get some good ideas and some cueing and so forth. And I've also done delay the disease programs, which is specific to Parkinson's.
Do you have anyone in your family with Parkinson's, or?
Well, my dad had it, and I am very, very physically like my father, very physically like my father. And so the first thing you ask yourself as soon as your hand shakes when you're putting on your mascara, and I'm sure you do that all the time, when my hand will start to shake, and I go, oh, you suppose that could be Parkinson's, or is it something else? And people have said, so if you get Parkinson's, what do you think? And I'm going, well, I know all of the exercise. I'll just do it. I go out on the track, high school track, and instead of just running, I'll run crossing my feet, and I'll run backwards crossing my feet, and try and run sideways. And but you want in anything that you're engaging your brain in order to make new synapses, you want to try something new, try something specific, and specific to what symptom you're trying to overcome. And really challenge yourself to do that. And if you can't quite do what you want to do, ask somebody to help you until you can do what you want to do.
So you've already talked about sort of what progress your clients have had. Why don't you tell us about your this Parkinson's Uganda?
That was real interesting. I'd been on Facebook for several years, and this young man wrote over and said, we need help in Uganda. And you go to the bank, and they have this big sign up that says, beware of everything in Uganda. If people are asking you for money, well, he wasn't asking me for money. He was asking for ideas. And the long and short of it is, I met a young man named Kabugo Hennington Tamale. His mother had Parkinson's. She also had HIV, which is not unusual in Uganda. And I talked to him on the phone, and he seemed very genuine. But it was when he said that people in the villages think that Parkinson's is witchcraft that I just kind of went orbital, because I know how debilitating it was for my father, who was a very social person, but he couldn't take the medication. So I was able to see, you know, the tremors. I was able to see the slow movement. I was able to hear the lack of voice and so forth. So when Hannington started showing me the conditions that these people were living in, it was like, I just got to do something about this. And my goal was simply to convince people through education and awareness in that poor little area of the country, so that people could actually touch and hug their grandchildren, because they were not able to touch or hug or anything, because they think that Parkinson's is contagious. It'd be like telling you that your ataxia is contagious.
Yeah. Well, I imagine to a lot of people who don't understand it, that that's probably their first reaction. And what, like, you've been part of the Parkinson's community for a long time. A lot of us in the ataxia community, you realize there's a shortage of awareness, probably because there's not many people. There are like maybe 200,000 people with ataxia worldwide, right? Whereas Parkinson's, the group is much larger, right? But
Yes, yes.
how do you recommend, or what do you think are good ways to raise awareness for something that people don't understand?
Oh my gosh. That's a really good question. We've been doing that with Parkinson's for so long, and still we have neurologists that don't understand that Parkinson's isn't just an old man's disease. You know, we still have neurologists that are saying, oh, well, you're a woman, you don't have Parkinson's, or there's no pain with Parkinson's. So it's a long and uphill battle. The only thing that I can suggest is just be out there, have little areas of Parkinson's awareness, or excuse me, of ataxia awareness when you can. I'm sure that, like, we have April is Parkinson's Awareness Month, and different support groups. My particular support group has gone to our local small newspaper and had articles about it. We've had awareness and opened up chats and things, and had people come to the library to talk to us. We have donated books about Parkinson's to the medical community and made a big deal of it, making sure that the local newspaper talked about it. We went to, this one I think is really, really important. We went to our local emergency responders, and we had drawn up our own I am not drunk pamphlets. You know, I am not drunk, I am not stoned, I have Parkinson's. If this happens, I need you to do this. You know, because the more that they're pressured when you have Parkinson's, the more that the tremor will happen. We actually had one man who was very upset, and he had his tremor like this, and the police were talking to him. He had phoned them to his house, and his son, who was a ne'er-do-well, had been bothering them, and the police were asking him these questions, and the more he was getting frustrated and his hand is getting higher and higher, they threw him to the ground because they thought that he was threatening them because he was raising his voice. And he had this was a guy that at the time is in his 70s, and his wife kept saying, he has Parkinson's, he has Parkinson's. The emergency responder police did not know that this was Parkinson's, and that stress would do this with Parkinson's. I think it's important, I think it's essential for people with ataxia to do the exact same thing. If you don't have things that are printed out for emergency responders, such as EMTs, fire departments, police departments, anything like that. You really need to have those. The same, I don't know, do they have the awareness bracelets that you can wear?
Yeah, I think there's some people that sell those.
Okay, but that again, what good does it do when the police guy goes, "Oh, it's a taxi. What the hell is that?" You know, pardon me, but what the hell is that? You know, it's the same thing. And if they misunderstand, and Robert has a question.
More statement. Natural NAF has cards for us to carry.
Good.
Yeah, I found out last week on that.
Yeah,
You might.
I forgot about that. They have cards we can get, and I'll have to share the link to that. There are cards we can get which explain the whole thing.
And you can custom your logo on a backside if you want to.
Oh,
So
that's
one
nice.
side could say hope for a section, the other side explains it.
Cool.
Yeah, it would be nice if that NAF could perhaps help you to develop some sort of handouts and have them go nationwide or globally to emergency responders, something that's quick, easy to read, and yet gets right down to the point.
It is happening right now, but called the walk and roll next month or October. There's a lot of communications from everybody on how you can design stuff. So that's part of it.
Oh, good, good.
The walk and roll is a fundraiser for everybody. I guess this year we're going to be more virtual than doing it actually. But
Oh, yeah. That's like our sole support for Parkinson's. It's usually a walk. And
yeah.
I guess they're going to walk with maybe umbrellas so that they can social distance 6 feet away and just use the umbrella as a poker or something.
Actually,
That's a good idea.
That's the end of my questions. So I'll, before we go to everyone else's questions, where do people find out your YouTube videos and all that stuff?
Well, it's real easy to spell Klingelhofer, right? Basically,
What?
Kling, your last name.
Klingelhofer. So my YouTube videos are under my name. I think that there might be about 80 of them. And then in my Facebook, it's under just Sherryl Klingelhofer. And I have notes in the more section. And you just click down over to notes. And I have, oh my gosh, I think it's about 200 notes, principally talking about, of course, Parkinson's, but really answers to an awful lot of your questions. Sometimes they're talking about caregiver support. Sometimes they're talking about how to lift your feet. Sometimes they're talking about vocal issues. My friend, the fireman who has Parkinson's here locally, hates the exercise that I do going like a fire truck to open and close.
Oh.
I was wondering what the hell that noise was.
As well.
That's a good one, Cheryl.
Cheryl, if
Yes.
if I can please interject.
Sure.
I don't know where you live, but I have a card from the taxi association that states that people like myself that I can give to somebody that says I have, a
That's cool.
I'm all the time.
Sir, your voice is cutting out there, Troy.
And it's the symptom of Friedrich ataxia, what I have. And to the point you made, an association to some of the points, but where you're going with what you're trying to say, to the sense that, like, there needs to be an awareness made beyond the point of we don't have a mental illness.
Right.
Of,
Yeah.
There's nothing wrong.
A debilitatory, a mental debilitatory association, like people like ourselves are trapped in our head, and this works fine. You know exactly what you want to say, but when it tries to come out or your body tries to do something, my legs, I'm thinking step 1, 2, 1, 2 all the time.
Yeah.
All the time. And trust me, I'm in a wheelchair because of it, and I'm not supposed to, but I do walk out of my wheelchair. I have to think leg left, leg right, leg left, leg right. And I understand that, but that's not associated anyway with dementia or anything else.
And I think
simply the brain is overfiring because the brain is thinking left, right, and suddenly goes right, left.
Right.
So it's different than what I think from what I've heard, and I apologize if I'm misrepresenting what you said. But it's much harder than trying to get my legs to, even when I try to just stand up, right, like if I were trying to stand up right now to get out of my bed, I have to concentrate. I have to concentrate to stand up, stop, make sure I'm balanced, and then put the leg forward, put leg right, leg straight. So I'm not devaluing anything you said, but I just think it's a completely different association, because the brain from the cerebellum is trying to it's sending too many
messages or whatever.
Yes, too many messages. Sorry, I speak in 4 languages. Mostly I speak in French, Canadian, so you can take fun of me for that.
Oh, really? I didn't know that, Troy. Cool.
Well, my boyfriend is French Canadian, and I lived mostly in Quebec. Now I live in Ontario, so now here they just make fun of me for my accent.
This is what I use on my cell phone. If you can read it. It kind of explains what text is. So
so
I
you
can
just keep your phone out.
Yeah.
That's a good idea.
That's a
you
great
can find
idea.
it.
What's that, Robert? Is that a website you put up?
I'm sorry, say it again?
Is that a website that you put up?
Yeah, national.
I got
you can find it on there.
Oh,
This is Genetics website for genetics.
Mindy, you found one, huh?
I'll send you, Jess.
are there any other questions for Sherryl?
No.
I'm definitely gonna look you up, Sherryl.
Oh,
yes,
good.
Cheryl, if you don't mind, I'll add you on Facebook.
She's in the group in our Hope for Taxi group.
Okay.
One question I thought of, do you have any exercises that are specific to people in wheelchairs or walkers, that sort of thing?
Actually, I do have a few seated exercises on my YouTube that are a little on the silly side, but I developed them for people that were in wheelchairs that were in a group, and we wanted to be able to lift feet and arms with, instead of just sitting there and doing this, We went for a walk in the woods.
I see.
You know, so that you walk with your feet, and then you have to put your feet apart in order to go around a mud puddle and things like that, even though you're in your chair. I think that most of the things that I have on there are going to be helpful, although what Tony was talking about was interesting, where it's like your brain is going 100 miles an hour and your body's been left back in the dirt, right?
Yes.
Yeah, so with Parkinson's.
Exactly.
Okay, with Parkinson's, there is a similarity and an opposite thing. My father would hear the telephone and he'd jump out of his lounge chair and he'd go answer the telephone because his brain was playing tricks on him. He did the regular brain body thing that he had done for years, and he was still ambulatory, you know. But when he wanted to get out of the chair and thought, I want to get out of the chair, he couldn't do it. He'd work, and you know, so he was fighting kind of his body thing almost the same way that you are, but for a different reason. So the end result was very similar.
And that's understandable. Like my great grandfather had Parkinson's, and he would do the same thing where he would, you know, be immobile and then suddenly jump up, and we'd have to like grab and make sure that he would not fall down. Yeah, it's real interesting the way that just all of a sudden it'll kick right in, and other times it just won't. So you're fighting your own body, and the more that you think about it, sometimes the harder it gets. Right. I worked with a gal who, I'm not sure if she had attacks, it was so many years ago, but I know that it was a young woman, and if she reached out, I was trying to teach her to swim. And if she reached out and I told her reach far, her hand would actually come in this way and she'd shake the harder she tried to extend her arm. So challenges like that. On
Tori's point real quick, what Tori's talking about is also where's your brain out? Trying to think constantly.
That's why
you got to do.
That's one reason we get so tired. That's right.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. Because you're constantly having to remind yourself how to move your body. Now,
even when it's stepping on a ball on a curve, you gotta tell your brain to tell your foot to step.
Yeah.
You know.
Now, in my father's case, he did freeze.
To your question, Mark, to your question, yes, I will.
Sorry. Oh.
So, yeah. Okay.
I would like to tell. Well, I would like to tell Tor. I want to tell you that one of the things that we have people do when they have problems getting out of chairs is to scoot forward on the chair, split your feet apart, and tuck your heels close to the chair itself. Scooting forward on the chair, and then tucking the heels in with your feet apart. Then put your hands on your knees and lean forward over one leg or the other and press down on your hands, and it'll help bring you up.
Do you have a video of that anywhere?
There's either video or notes that have the photos for that, and I'm trying to remember what the name of those are.
It's Scott Good.
I almost fell though. I don't know if you saw that.
Yeah, I did.
I did.
Well, thanks, Sherryl, for your time. I know you're really busy with all the stuff you do.
Yep, thank you.
Yes, thank you, Sherryl.
Well, you taught me an awful lot too, and I'm rooting for you guys to have some sort of a handout by next year that will go to your emergency responders, and that you can start that movement and start in your own cities and then spread from there.
Yes.
Right?
And this is completely a different subject, but again, I'm writing a cookbook for the Ataxia Association. So if anyone wants to email me any recipes, I will be making them into my cookbook and turning it to gluten-free, because I also have celiac. So send me anything you want, and
Oh, wonderful.
if it's actually tasty, I'll include.
Cheryl, I just want to.
send you.
I want to tell you that I have a medical bracelet. See, it's it's a medical bracelet. So if the responders would come, and on the inside you can't really see it, but on the inside, oh yeah, there we go. And the inside is just my doctor's information and my like my mom's, like, because that's what you should call us, my mom.
Oh, cool.
You know, things like that. But it's getting a little bit older. But I got this one online. I thought, well, if I'm gonna have one, I want a nice one, and then I don't have my.
Yeah, because it's cute.
Yeah, and so when I wear it, I see this side. But if I was laying down, like if I hit my head or something, and I was laying down, then they would see the medical side.
I really like that one. That's one of the best ones I've seen.
Thank you.
Yeah, Mary Beth, that's really cool.
You know what? They're on a website, you guys, called Lauren's Hope.
Okay, let's let Cheryl
And
go.
not exactly good guides, though, right?
Okay.
Nice being with you.
Hey.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Anytime you want me back, just let me know and I'll figure it out.
Sure. Okay.
Thanks, Cheryl.
Thank you.
Cheryl.
Bye-bye.
But to this